Okay, sorry about that. Just to make sure everything is perfect. Okay, now you're still recording. Okay, we will digitally label the thymus and the thyroid. If you cannot identify the structures, explain why. In the next step, you will dissect the thoracic cavity to view the underlying organs and blood vessels. First, palpate the lower chest to find the inferior region of the rib cage. Okay. This is the inferior region of the rib cage here. Let's see. Figure 13. Make incision 1 as shown on figure 13 by using the scalpel to cut through the midline of the chest muscles. Start at the most superior portion. Okay. So, this part is already open, so we're gonna go here. This is where our lower incision will be. This is how the diagram is showing it. And then straight up here, okay? And I wasn't clear if this piece of tissue was supposed to be completely removed or just, you know, folded back, but either way we got to see the structures that we were looking for. Okay, so now we're going to remove the tissue, I believe like opening a door. We don't want to go too deep. I believe on some of the structures on the first incision, we may have gone a little too deep. This way we're just going to separate the skin so we don't do that again. It's kind of hard with the tissue being older and we don't know how long it's been soaking in that formaldehyde. Okay. So here we got down to the muscle tissue. Okay, now we gotta do this side. I'm gonna just turn him around. Since I'm right-handed, it seems a little bit easier this way. Separating the connective tissue on this side, as we did on the other side. With the scissors, using them. Some parts I can tell the connective tissue from the muscle fiber, so it's easy, I can just snip it, but on some of them I have to use the separating trick on the scissors so that we don't go too far. If this pig was alive, I'm pretty sure he'd be in bad hands. Okay, so now we're down to the muscle tissue here. And I can feel the sternum of the pig here. We made our incision. So we have our incision 3, 1, and 2. Okay, so the next step says make incision 1, we got that. Make incision 2, use the tissue forceps, straight probe, and scissors to separate the muscle tissue from the sternum and rib cage. Okay, so now we're gonna separate muscle tissue from the rib cage. I kind of feel comfortable using the scalpel. Chris, you're in the light. Can you come over to this side, please? On the sternum, it's a little bit difficult because it's really bony. But if we use these scissors to separate the tissue, it should be a little easier. Work down. So it wants us to go pretty far down. Using dissection scissors and tissue forceps, follow incision line 1. Okay. Down here. Chest muscles. Lift the tissue with the tissue forceps while making a diagonal cut to ensure you do not damage any underlying structures such as the diaphragm. The rib cage can be difficult to open once you have made the correct cuts. In addition, bone fragments may be sharp. Make multiple cuts between the ribs. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go past the ribs then. Okay, so we're through the ribs. I can feel the sternum here. Okay, and I have my thumb underneath the ribs. We don't want to damage any of the tissue that's under there. Our sternum cut was pretty clean. There's no rib bone showing or anything on this side. This side has a little bit of rib bone showing. Let's see, make multiple cuts between ribs on both sides and pull those pieces back individually. Okay, so each rib, we're gonna cut that back. Okay, so there's 1. And where's the other one? Gotta feel. Cut away some of this muscle tissue so we can get to the actual rib cavity. Okay. And here's the ribs through the sternum. There's another rib through the sternum. I can feel here a rib through the sternum. The sternum's a little bit tougher than I expected it to be. Okay, so we're opening this area up here. Let's see. Cut them off at dorsal side of the ribs to expose the inside of the thoracic cavity. Okay.
So where you're cutting open right now, all the spots in between the cuts are the rib cage. Like
this is the rib cage in total. This whole thing is the rib cage. So like when you're doing CPR, this is where you're pushing. So this is in between ribs. There's another rib here. Ribs, ribs, ribs. So what I'm doing basically is cutting his ribs off.
Oh, and inside of all those ribs is what, his heart, his lungs?
Yeah, this is what we're exposing right now, his insides. Okay. Let's see. Carefully remove any excess tissue or clotted blood around the heart, lungs, and trachea. So we have to remove, it said to remove his ribs. What was it at 10%?
15.
Okay. So we're having some battery issues with our recording device, but we're gonna grab a charger here in a second. Okay, so those ribs are gone. Now I have to get these off. If you want, Chris, go ahead and pause the video. I'll go grab the charger.